You're listening to Cosmic Cousins Soul-Centered Astrology. I am your host, Jeff Hinshaw. Thanks for tuning in. Cosmic Cousins is dedicated to honoring the interconnectedness of our universal family through embodied health, self-discovery, and deeper learning. And it is here to bring you back into alignment with the cosmos. So thank you for being here as always. Hey, Cosmic Cousins. Happy Taurus season to you. This is a special bonus episode. For those of you who are Taurus, happy birthday. Happy solar return. And to our Taurus risings, happy rising self time of year. This is the time of year where all of us get to shine a conscious light to the Taurus parts of our chart, and it's a special Taurus season because we are in eclipse season. So right now, the North Node of Fate is in the fixed personal earth sign of Taurus, and the North Node encourages soul growth. And so this is through our body, through our sensuality, all of the Taurus themes. This is the steadfast generosity of this earth sign, the power of the voice. Taurus rules over the throat. So I wanted to check in, see how eclipse season's going for you. You may have heard on the last podcast episode for the Libra full moon, I had mentioned that there would be 2 more episodes for this season of Cosmic Cousins. But what I'm realizing is that something new is unfolding for me in this offering, and I have been following the new and the full moon with you all for almost 2 years. And so what I'm realizing is that the podcast wants to take on a new shape and a new form. And so instead of gathering on the new and the full moons, I'm giving myself permission as the host of the podcast to break free from those structures and to release podcast episodes when I feel the Uranian inspiration. And so this freedom actually feels like it could mean episodes are released more often. But I also don't want to limit myself and promise to that because, they might not always line up with the cycles of the moon, but I still might release episodes on the new and the full moon, might release episodes at the beginning of each astrological season. And perhaps that's part of the Uranian feels of this Taurus season. You're probably familiar, but right now Uranus, the planet of revolution and radical change, is in Taurus and has been bringing cosmic insight to the fixed earth vibes of Taurus since 2018. May of 2018 is when Uranus first entered Taurus. So some questions for us to reflect on at this time is, how are we staying committed and grounded to the practical sides of our life? How are we staying committed and grounded to our work, to our relationships, while also creating space for some sort of new radical expressions and breakthroughs to shine through? So this Taurus season of 2022 feels particularly profound in that this is the first time the North Node of Fate and Uranus will both be in Taurus together. So we will likely start to become more conscious of Uranus's role in Taurus throughout this eclipse season, as the North Node of Fate is encouraging evolution, and particularly in a Uranian way. So something else I want to bring to mind is later in the year, August 1st, is right when Mars, Uranus, and the North Node will line up in Taurus. And so that is a peak point of the year when looking at these themes. But for now, I'm reflecting it to you in that I'm committed to my work in that Taurus way. I want to produce things, but I want it to feel leisurely and I want it to feel enjoyable. And so I'm allowing myself to break free in that Uranian way. And I plan to still release energy updates for the podcast. I also plan to still interview creatives in our community. But instead of releasing a jam-packed episode that's like 2.5 hours long, they might be shorter. It might be 20 minutes or 30 minutes. And in the case of today's episode, it's still over an hour long. And so it's an exciting episode today. On the podcast, we have husbands Brandon Alter and Angel Lopez, who many of you know and who have been on the podcast before. They are the co-hosts to the podcast Spiritual Gayz, which is a podcast exploring the wide reaches of spirituality without pretending that it all makes sense. And so I'm calling the title of this episode and our conversation Taurus and Steady Love, because this becomes a phrase that we refer to a few times in our conversation. And this term steady love is a phrase that I learned from singer India Ari, who has a song called Steady Love that I've just been singing a lot to myself throughout this Taurus season already. And it feels quite Taurian. India Ari is a Libra, ruled by Venus, and Taurus is also ruled by Venus. And so, yes, I hope you enjoy this conversation. In our conversation with Brandon and Angel, we talk about Queen of Taurus, who is Cher. She was crowned Queen of Taurus back in 2018. And we talk about her connection to elephants and how elephants and other animals connect us to the energy of Taurus, and how animal visitations may be connected to our Uranus opposition. We also talk about the Taurus North Node and Scorpio South Node. We look at the charts for the Taurus New Moon and Scorpio Full Moon. And then to round out our conversation with a dose of reality, we talk about the reality TV show RuPaul's Drag Race. And we look at the final 5 drag queens from this season 14 of RuPaul's Drag Race. We look at each of their birth charts, and we talk about how we see their chart expressed through their participation in this show. And so the finale of RuPaul's Drag Race is airing tonight, Friday, April 22nd, when this episode airs. And so if you're into Drag Race, you'll want to stick around towards the end of the conversation for that. So before we get into that conversation, I do have some special announcements and reminders. I release a newsletter on each new and full moon, so if you'd like to stay up to date with the lunations and with my offerings, you can visit the link in the show notes to sign up for the newsletter. And also in the show notes, you'll find links to my other offerings for both astrology and tarot readings. And finally, if you sent me an email about working with me through a mentorship, and you've not heard back yet, I will be responding to you in the next few days. And that's all for announcements. I am wishing you a happy Taurus season, and I hope that this conversation with the spiritual gaze in some ways adds to that Taurus season magic. And so, thanks for being here as always. At this time, let's transition into our combo, Taurus and Steady Love, with husbands Brandon Alter and Angel Lopez. So today with us on Cosmic Cousins, we have husbands Brandon Alter and Angel Lopez. Welcome back to Cosmic Cousins.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Yes, thank you.
I'm really excited to be with you today. I have my rose water out here. I've got a candle lit. I got the Empress card out because we're going to be talking all things Taurus today. And I was kind of giggling to myself this morning when I looked at the current transits, because we're recording this a little bit before the Taurus New Moon. But when I looked at the energy of this moment, it's Cher's vibe. We have Taurus Sun with a Capricorn Moon, and Cancer is rising literally a few minutes before we got on the call. Cancer started rising. So we've got Cher's big 3 with us. So what does that bring up for y'all? How does Cher connect with Taurus? You know, this is something that we've connected with because we know Cher is the queen of Taurus.
Yeah, I mean, Cher is my goddess. She is the embodiment of my North Node in Taurus. She helps me to work with my Capricorn Moon. But I think when I meditate on Cher is that like she's really built to last. And that feels like something really important with Taurus vibes is it's not just about like the luxury and the poetry and the decadence, but it's also about building something that can withstand the seasons, something that really wants to go the distance. And we all know Cher has gone that freaking distance.
She really has.
I mean, she is synonymous with standing the test of time. And also famous for creating the term, if I could turn back time.
That's actually very true.
Or at least making that term famous.
Have you seen the Cher documentary where she goes and saves that poor elephant in like Cambodia?
No.
Okay. So a couple of years ago, Cher got a bee in her bonnet and there was this poor elephant that was just like penned in this tiny little enclosure, was so depressed. And Cher was like, we are going to get this elephant to some sort of sanctuary. And she made all sorts of arrangements with like the president of that country. And she had to like hire a plane. And it was this whole almost like scientific process. Like, how do you transport an enormous elephant across country lines? But my favorite moment of this whole documentary is that this elephant is like depressed and is like hitting his head against a wall and like all sorts of like traumatic behavior. And Cher walks towards this elephant and is singing My Way a cappella because this, for whatever reason, is the elephant's favorite song. And it's this like incredible connection. And it feels very Empress, right? And it feels very Taurus, connected to the throat, connecting with animals and connecting with nature. And I feel like, I don't know if Cher will ever do better than that in terms of like stepping into the archetype of the Taurus Empress.
Wow. I mean, so much is firing off my brain. I mean, for one, just Taurus, I connect to elephants. I know traditionally it's like the bull or the cow, but I think of like Ganesh would be a god that I would think of with Taurus, the remover of obstacles, and just elephants. I remember reading or like seeing in a documentary that they're the one animal that cries. Like they actually mourn the loss of their loved ones, which is making me think of the Scorpio polarity. Like they actually have a whole funeral service where they all line up at the water and then they bow their heads. So there's so much emotion in the elephant too. And then when you said the word sanctuary, you know, finding a sanctuary for the elephant, I think of sanctuaries with Taurus too. It's like the Hierophant soul growth card for Taurus, you know, being in that place of ritual. So there's a lot in there. What is the documentary called?
I think it's called Cher and the Loneliest Elephant. I know.
So sweet.
I for sure ugly cried during the watching of this
Multiple
documentary.
I think we all need a good ugly cry right now. And, you know, that would be a really good use of all this Piscean energy too, is to watch something that would unlock the reservoirs.
Yeah, totally.
So
and she
true.
recorded a song just for the documentary called Walls. And that also, Angel can tell you, like, I would just like walk around the house singing that for weeks.
Wow. Queen of Taurus. It's also making me think of the final two queens for Virgo. Lily Tomlin also has a connection to elephants too. And she did a lot of humanitarian work with elephants. So there's something with the earth energy here and working with animals. It's making me think of, you just went to the zoo as well for Angel's birthday. I heard that on your recent podcast episode. Happy birthday to you, Angel.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was so amazing. I'm sure just having my Taurus rising does connect me to animals. I remember actually being really young and always getting so excited to go to a zoo or a petting zoo or anything of that nature, because I could just like sit there and like pet a goat for hours.
Yeah. You got to hang out with penguins, right?
Yeah, we got to feed penguins. But I actually feel like you should tell Jeff about your 3 animal encounters during your Uranus oppositions.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Yeah, Jeff, I think you would dig this. So I had, during my Uranus oppositions that I just had. So I just had my Uranus opposition. It hit 3 times. And on each one, I essentially had like a visitation by one of the wildlife in our neighborhood, in our area. One waking up one morning and finding wild peacocks roaming our backyard.
Which they've never done since or before. It was just once they came up to the house and were just in the yard.
Mm-hmm.
Second, standing out front and being on a phone call with a friend and having our local bobcat come running up the driveway and sort of started sauntering toward me and just kind of like lingered. My friend had to yell at me, like, get in the house, because I was just standing there like talking to it and taking photos. And she was like, I think you're letting it get too close. And then the third time having a coyote come and nestle itself onto our front lawn and take a nap.
For like 20 minutes. This coyote just like hung out.
As I just stood there watching it.
Whoa. And when did you have the moment where you're like, oh, this is my Uranus opposition?
I think it was probably a couple weeks after, in just trying to get a real understanding around like, okay, what was this Uranus opposition really about? And one of the tricks we always use in trying to just, look at the, the effects of a transit is, oh, let me go through my my camera roll and just see, okay, what was going on at that time. Yeah. And looking at the dates and literally seeing like, oh, the photos of the wild peacocks. Oh, the photos of the bobcat. Oh, the photos of the coyote.
But it was even before the coyote, because I remember Angel saying, like, before the third pass of this opposition, he was like, I wonder what's going to happen on the third pass. Like, what sort of animal visitation is going to happen? And then literally on the day, there is this coyote just like chilling there, just like standing on the berm outside of our house. And we were just like peeking at it through the window, like thinking it was going to run away. And it just laid down.
Just curled up.
Just like made a little pillow out of a rock and was there for so long. And I was like, okay. I was like, this is for you, but I'm glad I get to witness it.
Yeah, being told to just, get more authentically in tune with my wildness.
Wow. It's cool that animals are coming through so much here with Taurus. Because I think I normally like go to Leo when I think of like animals, because of just like the lion and it's like the king of the jungle. But there is something in Taurus that is so earthy. And also, we talked about this in our last conversation, but you had said, do you think our dogs connect us to Taurus energy? I think, Brandon, you might have said that. And I've been thinking about that a lot since that conversation. What do you think it is in the medicine of animals that would connect us to the energy of Taurus?
Well, to me, Taurus is like the farm, right? Like it's nature and our relationship to it. And particularly dog energy, more so than cat energy. I mean, we could talk about like where cats fall in the zodiac. I think it'd be a little bit more challenging. I'm like, maybe they're Scorpio, maybe they're Pisces. But dog energy, like it is so present. And I think Taurus energy is very present, like everything that we associate with the sign. The lingering and the luxury and the comfort is about being in the present moment. And animals are really good about just being in that present moment and bringing us back to the present moment.
Those encounters with the animals, did they deepen your connection to your Taurus rising? The first one, like with a peacock, for me, I mean, that just feels like Cher.
Totally.
The feathers. But do you have a deeper connection to each of these animals now? Have you been feeling their presence?
I think, if anything, it's deepened my relationship with just the land in general, and recognizing that I too am an inhabitant of this space, and to just be like more present to how I treat the space, how I inhabit the space, and making sure that I'm making room for everyone else who's sharing it with, that we're sharing it together.
Yeah. When you come and visit, you'll see that you just can't avoid the natural world here. Like, I had to rescue lizards from the garage the other day because they just love to crawl in when the garage door goes up. And it's just, I think Taurus also helps us to remember that like we're not so alone in our lives. Whereas I think Scorpio energy can sometimes be like, I put my blinders on and I'm just kind of like focusing on me. And Taurus is like, no, like you are part of an ecosystem. And it's helpful, I think. It gets you out of your own way.
Yeah. So with this polarity right now, having the South Node in Scorpio, do you think we might have the tendency to kind of fall into these when you're saying like pull the blinders? Do you feel that pull of the Scorpio South Node right now? And how are we evolving towards Taurus at this time? I mean, everything that you're talking about, it is allowing me to kind of get out of my intellectual understanding of Taurus and to really feel into the medicine of Taurus. Yeah, what are your thoughts on this polarity right now? This is kind of getting us into the energy of the eclipse, which I'd like to look at the new moon chart too.
Yeah, that chart is wild. All right, so these are my natal nodes. So I do live this axis. And I think what you're saying about the kind of myopic nature of a Scorpio South node, where we can not see the fullness of the picture because we get kind of obsessed about a certain piece of it, is certainly happening globally right now. And we can see that some people are shrinking and essentializing in ways that are not healthy or honest. And then other people are understanding what I think the Taurus North Node is growing us towards, which is a more holistic understanding of how we all live together. And this isn't to denigrate Scorpio, because Scorpio energy obviously is amazing and transformative and powerful. But because the South Node is there, it's asking us to level up our relationship with Scorpio energy. Like, what of our Scorpio nature collectively is no longer serving us? And I think it's this kind of getting really obsessed about one idea and not seeing everything else that's happening. And, I think the media takes advantage of that. I mean, you're probably with me here too, as a double Aquarius. But whenever there's like some big news story that's happening and everyone's talking about it, my first thought is like, what's happening that we're not paying attention to? What's the misdirection that's happening right now in the public sphere?
Yeah.
So like when all that stupid Academy Awards stuff happened, I was like, what are we not supposed to be seeing right now? Because this has consumed all of us. That felt very Scorpio South Node. Like, let's get obsessed about this one kind of stupid little thing when there's so many more important actions that are happening globally.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It's making me think of, with the pandemic right now, there's so much focus on the vaccine and wearing masks, but we're not really addressing, what's going on environmentally that might have created the container for a global pandemic to arise, So I'm thinking about that right now when you're sharing that. And
yeah, that's a great example.
How does the Taurus North Node, help us navigate this time then?
I mean, hopefully what it can do is help us move to just more real world, now based practical approaches to these things that are showing up for us that need to evolve, that need to change. I can't help but to consider that, this whole, Uranus and Taurus that we've been living with, and the call that's been already doing in so many of us, for me, always looking at it from an angle of, really aligning with our authentic nature, with the necessary changes that we need to do to really ground ourselves into our authenticity in a greater way. And, my hope is that we can all really kind of get rid of all of the extreme ideas and such that we've been so focused on, so that we can just get really clear about, okay, what's actually the world right now? What's actually my life right now?
Yeah.
And what changes, what evolutions do I need to, or revolutions do I need to take on in order to really get grounded in the reality of me and my existence here and our existence here?
I feel that from the two of you and the way that you show up in our community. It's part of why I wanted to have you on for the Taurus New Moon episode. I mean, there's a few reasons. One, because Angel, you're a Taurus rising. You connect us to that Taurus energy. But also that you are, this relationship, which is steadfast and committed. You're married to each other in the queer community. Oftentimes we think of Libra as relationship sign, but I also love meditating on Taurus and its connection to Venus and how it really connects us to that steady love. And in the two of you work together, you have this offering, which feels very Taurus. And right now, while Uranus is transiting Taurus, it's bringing in the technology, it's bringing in the astrology. And I see the two of you as being really committed to your path as spiritual practitioners and being really hardworking, but doing it in a way that is also, from my perspective, it feels leisurely too. Like you're enjoying what you're doing. It's hard work, but make it fashion. And so I think that both of you are making such good use of this Uranus and Taurus transit, and you're really role models for us at this time. You know, when you use the word revolution, and Angel, and I think you might have been talking about Uranus, I'm not sure, but I'm just kind of reflecting back. Like I'm looking at the two of you right now, and you have all this Uranian technology around you, but you're in this beautiful space. So I see it reflected in that sort of way. I'll be curious for us, you know, when we look back at this time, if we do really feel the presence of Taurus. Because when we're in the transit, sometimes we don't really know exactly what's going on. It's sometimes that later perspective. When I reflect some of those Taurian traits back to you, does it bring anything up for you? Have you noticed that about Uranus and Taurus transit?
I mean, we definitely don't rush things. We definitely sometimes want to. You know, my Capricorn moon is always like, how can we make this more efficient? And for whatever reason, especially in the way that we approach our offering and the spiritual gaze and everything, we really just like trust divine timing, and things are going to take the time that they take. And that is very Taurian, I think, in the way that we approach that, and just surrendering to that pace, right? Like, and then I was just meditating on the idea of Taurus as self-sufficiency, and with Uranus and Taurus as disruption of supply chain, and also kind of like shaking up where resources are coming from. I think it helps us understand that Taurus North Node, which is like, how can I take care of my own needs? How can I make sure that I am not relying on other people, places, organizations, and in some ways making myself weakened by not having a direct relationship with the things that I need to make my life happen. And in terms of technology, I think we're also seeing that as well, that we're dependent on technology, and that there's also a commodification of technology. I think it's really interesting, all of these like scam artists, all of these imposters on Instagram that are showing up for people, and that Instagram does nothing about it. They're just like, nah, it's too bad. Luckily, you know,
You don't even say that.
they don't.
Any responses from?
They're just like, whoop, they just ghost. Yeah. So I think it's all very interesting to also look at like, and you know, a lot of us are very dependent on Instagram for our business, right? So that feels very Uranus and Taurus, right? Like the technology and the business, because you can't deny that like Taurus and Venus, it's also like how we make money. And so we're like, oh, there are these gatekeepers. There are these technological gatekeepers that we've become so fucking dependent on. And what happens when the gatekeepers aren't doing their job?
Yeah. Yeah. I know a lot of Tauruses in my life actually have been quite active on social media. It's been interesting to see how they are Uranian themselves. I'll be interested for you, Angel, when Uranus finally leaves your 12th house and enters your first house, because you're Taurus rising at the 21st degree I'm seeing here. And right now, Uranus is at the 14th degree. So we have a little bit of time.
But it's been foreshadowing. I think, you know, Angel got his ears pierced for his birthday. And I feel like that's a very Uranus first house sort of thing, you know?
Yeah.
But it's interesting because he has to wear these earrings for like 3 months until they heal. So I bet by the time like Uranus crosses into that first house is when you'll get to like start to wear all the earrings that you want.
Totally. Have my ombre fade in my hair. Like I'm very ready. I'm very ready.
Well, yeah, when Uranus lines up with your black moon, Lilith, and Jupiter in Taurus, I'm sure there's going to be all sorts of radical queer expression going on.
I don't even know. I'm not prepared, but I guess my soul is preparing me. But I do just also want to point out a great term that you used that's just like sitting with me, which is steady love. That really like struck me. It's also like a single. I'm like, it's going to be my first single featuring The Weeknd. It's coming out soon.
Well, it is a song by India Ari.
Yes.
Yes. So I keep seeing, she's not a Taurus, but she is a Libra. And there's something with these two signs that connect us to that love. I think it's really it's like a Venus term too, we could say. But
Yeah, and I think you're so right that it's easy to forget that aspect of Taurus, right? Because I think there's only like certain Venus traits that get applied with Taurus. You know, the artistic element, the beauty element, things of that nature. When I also really think, yeah, there is also just like the work that goes into relationship.
Yeah.
And the commitment that brings up.
Yes.
Which is wild that we actually have that quality to our relationship, because both of us have Venus in Aries, which is not a steady love at all.
No.
Wow. It's like spicy, sounds like to me.
Yeah, it's a spicy, steady love.
Yeah.
But we do the work.
For Angels Taurus rising.
Thank you.
Yeah, so true.
And that Taurus Jupiter in the first house, it does keep me, you know.
Except when we're trying to leave the house, Jeff. Then that Taurus rising is my arch nemesis.
Yeah. I always think about the queen of Taurus, Cher. She was late to the Zodiac Queen's like bracket because I thought she was a Gemini because her birthday's the last day of Taurus. And I believe it was you, Brandon, that was like, excuse me, why didn't you include Cher here?
That sounds like me.
She showed up like 2 days after and then ended up winning. Yes, we love the lingering quality of Taurus. I do know, like when I'm spending time with Taurus energy or Taurus friends, there's a sense of, you know, time kind of extends past what we had scheduled. I remember when I interviewed 3 Tauruses for the Taurus panel, we just ended up talking for an hour after. We were just enjoying each other's company so much. Yeah, I've been making use of the Taurus North Node by really channeling that towards my relationship that I'm in. And, you know, the South Node in Scorpio has been me letting go of old patterns of jealousy and codependency and power dynamics and, you know, paranoia even, you know, letting go of those kind of shadow traits of Scorpio and really saying, can I just show up to this dinner and tomorrow maybe let's go on a hike? And does it have to be so deep and dark and serious, you know? Mm-hmm. Let's just show up to this present moment and enjoy the company that we have with each other. You know, that's one way that I've definitely been channeling the Taurus North Node. So, you know, this new moon could be a time where we start to become more conscious of these themes unfolding in our life. And I look to the two of you as an example of ways to show up with steady love, whether it's in a relationship or to our offerings. And you know, we kind of just jumped right into our conversation, which I love, but I would love for both of you to share what your offerings are. Brandon, maybe we'll start with you because I had the opportunity to do a soul retrieval with you. I think that's what you call it, which was a really powerful session that we had one-on-one, and it was over Zoom. And that, you know, that's still unfolding in my life, that experience.
Oh, good. I'm so glad. I mean, so, you know, full disclosure, I have a terrible memory for all of my offerings, which I think is spirit designed, you know, like I give readings and I do healings and then people will come to me afterwards and be like, do you remember when you said this? And I'll be like, no, I don't remember it at all. Because I think I know that I'm in a channeling state. And so things are happening through me, but not by me.
The word trance came to mind. It felt like you were in a trance state.
For sure, especially with the spiritual healing work that I do. I'm definitely in an altered state for sure. But I'm so glad to hear that work is still unfolding and integrating for you. Yeah, it's definitely one of the offerings. And over the last 2 years, I've had to learn how to do all of my work remotely, and it's amazing. And it's, again, so Aquarius, that space and time is just a total illusion and you don't have to be in the same space. But also I'm looking at your beautiful face on this computer screen in the spirit room. So you're also here in real time and space, even though I can't actually touch you. So I am a queer spiritual healer. And so I do spiritual healing work, and I also am a tarot reader and an astrologer. So I do readings in both of those. And then together we are the Spiritual Gayz. It's what was that, Captain Planet, right? With our powers combined, we are Captain Planet. And so we have a podcast, And we also host monthly circles. We do a breathwork circle, a spirit world circle, which is where we teach people the animistic practice of spirit tripping, so how to like travel to the invisible world. And then we also have a monthly astro club where we kind of talk about like the upcoming astrological transits and the new moon and the full moon and other, juicy cosmic happenings in the sky.
Yeah. And your big three, you are an Aquarius sun.
I'm an Aquarius sun conjunct Mercury. I'm a Capricorn moon conjunct Neptune. And I'm an Aries rising.
I love thinking of the conjunctions. I've not thought of your moon with the conjunction in Neptune, but that makes so much sense for you.
Yeah, my chart is full of like little duets. Like pretty much everybody's got a partner. Mm-hmm. Which is like, even as you pointed out, like my North Node likes to hang out with Ceres. My South Node likes to hang out with Saturn. there's a lot of partnership energy in the chart, interestingly enough.
Yeah. Beautiful. Well, thank you for introducing yourself halfway into our conversation.
That's how we tend to be on our podcast.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I just noticed when you started talking about the spiritual gaze that, Angel, you're wearing a t-shirt.
I am.
Oh yeah, we have a little. That's very Taurus and North Node, right?
Totally.
We have a little spirit shop. We've got some cute teas, some water carriers, a hat or two, and my mom made all this like beautiful jewelry with like different gemstones, and then she's a double Taurus, and then she just like never sold it. She just like made all this jewelry and then just like sat there. So I've been wearing some of it, and people have been like, "It's so cool, I love it." So we might start selling some of that too.
I know what I'll be doing when I get off this call. Going shopping on your website. I want to get one of those t-shirts. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And there's a lot of different
options.
options.
What's the symbol on there? I see the spiritual gaze written out, but what is the symbol above it?
It is our logo. It is just like an eye. It's like a cosmic eye, but it also has the Aquarius and the Aries symbols represented for our sun signs. There's a little Saturn and a little Jupiter.
Yeah.
Some various little Easter eggs hidden in there.
Yeah. And the eye is kind of composed of these like two interlocking moons, because we have opposing moons, because Angel's the Cancer moon and I'm the Capricorn moon. So we had an amazing graphic designer, Bryn, and she used all of her Pisces Virgo magic to make this happen for us.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Why Saturn and Jupiter?
Because we always joke that we are Saturn and Jupiter. And we kind of trade off, but usually Angel's Jupiter and I'm Saturn. Because we're two
teams. I was going to guess. I was going to guess that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Angel, you have the Jupiter rising.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, introduce yourself now.
I'm Angel, Aries sun, Cancer moon, Taurus rising. And I work primarily in astrology if I'm working one-on-one. That's the work I've done for 20 plus years now. And work with first-time clients, have a lot of people I've seen throughout the years who come back and will either do, year ahead work or just, kind of general check-in work, depending on what they're looking for and needing in their time. And then, like Brandon said, we do a lot of work together, and that's the stuff that really lights me up is the community work that we do. We're going to be leading our first retreat.
That's right.
The first weekend of May. So just like getting really excited to actually like have some private, in real time experiences and work with some of our community. So
yeah, and what a cool time to be gathering. I mean, when we're talking about Taurus and its connection to nature, being able to be out, it's Joshua Tree, right? Is where you're gathering.
Yeah.
You'll get some visits from animals during that time too.
I would be surprised if we didn't. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And it feels like very fated, this retreat, in a lot of ways. So we were like, let's just lean into the eclipse season energy of having a retreat at that time, because it does feel like the people that are going to be there it's all it feels fated, destined, kind of written in the stars. So we're just really leaning into all of that.
Yeah. Is there still openings for this retreat?
Yeah, there are a few. So if people, we know people can be last minute AF, and we support that. So if y'all still want to show up, we're going to take people registering up until, maybe a couple days before, just so we have our numbers. So all the information's on our website, and we'd love anybody that feels called to show up.
Yeah. I'll put a link in the show notes. And also, I'm just thinking about all this Pisces energy too, which is a sign of retreat. It's also, as a collective water sign, a lot of healing takes place when we gather in groups for retreats. And so, yeah, this would be a great use of that. So when we look at the chart for this Taurus New Moon, it's ruled by Venus in Pisces. That is hanging out with both Neptune and Jupiter in Pisces. So I'm looking at the Taurus New Moon chart, and this is for April 30th, so the last day of April this year. And this is a partial solar eclipse, and it's at 1:28 p.m. Pacific time if we want to get nice and detailed. But the sun and moon are joining in Taurus at the 10th degree, and they are within 4 degrees of Uranus in Taurus. So it's an eclipse in Taurus hanging out with Uranus. That's our first starter there, yeah.
And it's like brought to you by what I'm calling the Pisces pajama party. Because you just have all those planets in Pisces just like hanging out, pulling cards, whispering secrets, staying up too late.
Getting a little high, watching YouTube clips.
So it's a really interesting energy for an eclipse because, you have the sun and the moon so close to Uranus, which feels a little edgy, right? Like that's an edgy energy to have an eclipse so close to a planet that has an eclipse energy just kind of like in their essence, right? Like Uranus liberates us. It brings in surprises. These are things that eclipses do. But then all of that energy is having to answer to Venus in her exalted Pisces, hanging out with Jupiter, Neptune. So there's this like beautiful kind of like spiritual optimism and dream-like essence that infuses this lunation. And I think it may be, the way I'm thinking about it is that like we are well resourced to handle whatever shocking things are going to come up from that eclipse. Does that make sense? Like we go to Pisces where everybody in Pisces feels really comfortable and energized. So it's like, okay, we have what we need to face what needs to be faced.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to go to sleep. When I tune into it, I have been practicing a lot of restorative yoga, literally just putting myself on a bolster for 30 minutes and just being. And it feels like to me, all this Pisces energy is a lot of processing, giving yourself the space and the time to kind of be in this, deep rest. Deep slumber. I mean, that's when I think of Pisces, that's what I feel. That's how I've been feeling it in my life. Obviously, not everyone's going to be hibernating or taking a nap, but.
No, I think that's interesting because also looking at this chart, Venus herself is making a lot of aspects, right? Like she's got this sextile to Pluto, this trine to the South Node, sextile to the North Node. So I do think, like there's a lot of processing going on that maybe has to happen behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And it's Pisces. So like you may not be able to, like if you reach for it, it slips through your fingertips. It's like those little floaties that you can only see them when you're not focusing on them. You know what I'm talking about? Like when you like see like a little floaty in your eye and it's like in your periphery and then you like try to look at it and it disappears. That might be some of this energy. So like, nap work, dream work, long, slow walk work, these sorts of the restorative yoga I think is great because it just supports the processing. And that's very Taurus, right? You're like, let me put myself in a physical position that facilitates some sort of spiritual integration.
I think so. And I think of Venus oftentimes with our work and how we're making money too. And, right now when I'm working with clients one-on-one and I'm doing a lot of one-on-one mentorship with people, I can feel how much their psychic receptivity is all growing and expanding at this time. You know, Jupiter's just amplifying all of that Neptunian psychic receptivity. And so I think that that would also be why I might feel extra tired right now, because there's just a lot of spiritual expansion taking place right now.
Yeah.
I like that you brought up the eye.
Oh.
And the floaties.
Yeah.
I'm seeing the eye on Angel's shirt. Taurus is connected to the third eye center, and we can think the bullseye. Oftentimes when we see an image of Taurus, the third eye will be illuminated. And so it's calling my awareness to the esoteric phrase for Taurus, which is, I see, and when the eye is opened, all is illumined. I see, and when the eye is opened, all is illumined. So Taurus is a sign of great intuition, which isn't necessarily how we always talk about Taurus.
No.
So I'm just kind of struck by the eye coming forward.
Yeah. Well, and it makes me think of the imagery of the Hierophant, right? Mm-hmm. Like the real sort of like cosmic teacher quality that comes with that. And also just tying it back to the chart too, I think I'm struck by the Mars interplay there, right? That Mars is sextiling that little new moon and Uranus cluster, which makes me think of just like living in flow energy. As someone who has Mars in Pisces, I think we can sometimes get a bad rep of like, you know, not doing anything, or, you know, being really slow, or, you know, having those types of qualities. But I think it's actually very much in line with what we've been talking about, which is kind of just sort of being present, you know, and slowly kind of approaching everything. And I think this is a good new moon to really meditate on the vision, you know, like the vision for the work you want to be doing, or, you know, the steps you want to be taking. You can even be like pondering those as you're going to bed at night and letting the dream work happen, but then also like allowing yourself some liberated freedom in your day, trying not to be so structured, so that you can kind of follow the Uranian whims, you know, and the Piscean whims as they want to show up, and not beat yourself up for that type of approach. You know, I think we are so like productivity directed that we forget that just a walk in nature is actually incredibly productive and is in service to the greater vision. We may just not know it until we get to the very end of the hike and have the like grand inspiration for the work we want to be doing.
Yeah. And that I think is Taurus as an intuitive through nature. Like I do connect to Taurus as earth-based healers and medicine people. Like that is the sign that it rules that sort of work, and that our intuition is natural. So when we're in touch with the natural world, it actually like opens us back up to our full size, whereas sometimes society and culture shrinks us down. Kind of goes back to that myopic, like, well, it's too big to function, you know, in ways that we're supposed to function. So yeah, I think I always say like nature gives us back ourselves again. And so taking a walk in nature, even just sitting outside, watching the clouds, watching the trees, feeling the wind, it starts to kind of strip away all the conditioning so that the eye then opens up again, as you talk about, and then all is illumined.
Yeah. Yeah, this is such good medicine in here for us. And I like that you're bringing up the Mars and Pisces sextile. I hadn't noticed that. When Mars entered Pisces, my landlord didn't tell me, but started to power wash my deck. That felt very Mars and Pisces with this Taurus energy to me.
Yeah.
Just kind of getting the deck prepared, that hard pressure of the water as Mars and Pisces. So that image came to me when you were talking about Mars and Pisces, of just kind of maybe there's some sort of like powerful cleansing energy that comes in with Mars and Pisces that is setting the stage so that you can then relax on your deck. And then this Mars and Pisces is playing a role at the Scorpio full moon total lunar eclipse, which is May 15th. So by that point, Mars and Pisces is where Venus is. and Mars will be conjunct Neptune in Pisces for that. And Mars is the traditional ruler for Scorpio. And so by that point, Venus and Jupiter will have moved into Aries, but then Mars and Pisces will be conjunct Neptune in Pisces. So there's something with this Neptune in Pisces that feels really important to both of these lunations, and also Mars is playing a role at both.
Yeah, it is really interesting because it reminds me of like the lunations for Aries season, which was like one was ruled by Mars and one was ruled by Venus. And we're kind of getting that again with that Neptunian flavor to it now. I mean, you know, this Scorpio full moon chart is pretty wild. I mean, it feels like emotions on steroids for sure. And they're just so, you know, the sun and moon are so close to the nodes at this point. They're just like 3 degrees away. So it does, you know, for me, I always say like eclipse energy is really too big and powerful to ritualize too much. Like we are little humans and these are very big energies. And all you can really do is just like take the ride and pay attention and let it work on you in ways that it wants to work on you. And I think that feels very like Mars and Neptune conjunct in Pisces, which is like, get shit done intuitively, you know, like don't try to plan or organize it because you don't know what's gonna come up. And it feels like, because it's Scorpio and it's a full moon eclipse, it feels like there's gonna be a lot of stuff kind of being pulled out, a lot of deep stuff that wants to be released, but kind of magnetized out of you from the depths.
There's almost like a cord cutting kind of, just kind of like that Mars energy of severing and being at the end of Pisces, just this end of a cycle. And then we have the South Node in Scorpio too, which is inviting us to release. So it just feels like whatever has been accumulating for you, particularly over the last 12 or 13 years with Jupiter and Pisces, this Mars is coming through and just kind of like completely severing ties.
Oh, I love that. Yeah,
baby boo, I'm ready to cut those cords. Let them go.
And it makes me think too about like the concept of sacred contracts and like what contracts are like needing to be renewed or have been fulfilled. You're like, you know what, our contract is done. Like I'm taking this up to the highest power and I am releasing this now. Like I don't need to keep going to this soul work anymore, you know?
It feels very Judgment in the tarot to me, of just like all of the people rising up from the graves, and it's the second to last card of the tarot. So going on a spiritual gaze retreat would be a good use of this energy because it's a safe container, or being in a restorative yoga pose behind closed doors away from the rest of the world.
Yeah.
Surrounded by stuffed animals.
Well, and we've been talking
and real ones.
Yeah. We've been talking a lot about like the astrology of this year just in general. It's like there's some really amazing, sweet, restorative, nourishing stuff and some really challenging, pushing, transformative stuff. And they happen almost simultaneously in ways that they don't actually interact. So it's like having these different rooms in your house, and it's like in one room is the Pisces room, and it's really sweet and dreamy and soupy, and you take naps and there's cookies. And then you like head into like, you know, like the Aquarius room, you know, like last month when you had like Mars and Saturn. It's you're like, okay, well, I'm going to dip in here for a minute just to like see what's going on, but then I'm going to head back into the Pisces room. So I think people need to know that you have agency and you can connect with the energies that feel good. Don't ignore what's happening in the world. Don't ignore what's happening in your life, but you don't have to stay there, you know, like dip in, get the information, and then dip out and be in places that resource you to handle what needs to be handled.
Yeah. I think in my Pisces room right now, I have RuPaul's Drag Race playing.
That sounds great.
Yeah. This is like one of the things that I've been doing to kind of escape reality, but also on your podcast, I love how you all say, and a dose of reality.
Yeah.
And you both say it at the same time. You kind of have these catchphrases that you say.
Yeah.
There's different segments to your show. And I thought maybe we would do a dose of reality.
Yes.
Would you, do you all record it together? Like, or is it already, I want to drop it in here. I want to have
let's do it. Okay.
We just do it together.
Yeah, do it with us, okay? A dose of reality.
I totally butchered that.
It's all right. We're just collectively fools, Jeff. It's fine.
Yes. It's so fun. So what's a dose of reality then on your show?
So a dose of reality is where we talk about the reality television that we love to imbibe, which is a lot of Housewives and a lot of RuPaul.
Yeah.
And
which, is divisive in our community. We've had actual people reach out to us and say I don't really need you talking about the Real Housewives. And then we have some people reach out to us and say, thank you for talking about the Real Housewives. It's my favorite part. It's very funny.
I enjoy it so much. I love how you bring that into your spiritual work. And for me, I laugh my ass off every time you're talking about these sort of things.
I'm so glad.
And I feel like we need that medicine. So for our dose of reality today, we're recording this the day before the finale of season, is it 14 of RuPaul's Drag Race?
I think it's season 477 where we're at.
Yes, that sounds about right. Especially when you start adding in all the all-stars, and you were just talking about there's a Spanish RuPaul's Drag Race.
There's a Spanish, there's a UK, there's a Canada, there's a Thailand. Mm-hmm. I mean...
Yeah. So
global empire.
I have it's final 5 this year, which is I love
a lot.
And hate at the same time.
Yeah. It's on brand with this season though, because most of them stuck around for 3/4 of the season anyway.
It is a very lovable cast.
Mm-hmm.
They're a bit younger than I think what we're used to.
Yeah, there was no grand dame this season. Mm-hmm. There was no venerable elder stateswoman of the cast.
Yeah, I've been enjoying it. It's kind of helped me reconnect to the queer community in a new way. Because now that I'm 35, I just feel like I'm just not as tapped into what the youth are doing. So it's been a learning experience for me, and something that's been a highlight of this season, I think, just culturally, is that I think 4 or 5 of them have come out as trans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Which is amazing.
It's very unique to this season. And one of those figures is Bosco. So I thought we would just touch base on these 5 queens, and I have their birthdays and some of their astrological energy. I thought it could just be fun for us to talk about.
Living for this.
Yeah, so Bosco is... Don't let her laid-back Seattle grunge vibe fool you. This fiercely competitive queen is all about femme fatale glamour. So Bosco was born on June 11th, 1993.
Okay, that's why she's so smart and quick-witted. She's got that Gemini energy. She won the reading challenge, so
every time.
Nobody knows how to read like a Gemini, I guess.
That's right. Yeah, I think all of the kind of acting and reading challenges she's been front.
Yeah, she's very intellectual. You can tell she's very smart.
And she, in her confessionals too, she's always kind of reading people.
Yeah, she definitely is.
And I feel the duality of Gemini and the nature too. There's just sort of that light and dark aspect that she's kind of building bridges between. She's definitely kind of a villain, but also is light at the same time.
Yeah. She's lovable. Yeah. She's lovable in a way that I don't find Diabetes to be particularly lovable. She's just leaning into that villain energy hardcore. The
library is open here.
Yeah. So Gemini Sun and then Pisces Moon. With Black Moon, Lilith in Pisces conjunct her moon.
Wow.
Yeah. So
there's that dark, edgy, feminine quality. Even just those brows, right? She's got to have those Bosco brows that are sharp and spiky.
Totally. Yes. So Bosco, who do you think's going to win? I'd be curious because by the time this episode comes out, we'll probably already know who the winner is. But
I think it's either Willow Pill or Lady Camden.
Okay. I'm probably Team Willow Pill, I would say. Yeah. As a lot of people are.
Yeah. How can you not be?
Let's look at Willow's. Where is Willow's? Off the top of my head, I know hers. I don't know why she's not in my notes. It just kind of disappeared. But Willow, her little bio here. A quirky little pill. This queen digs deep to deliver a wicked sense of humor and a dark, eccentric drag style. She is an Aquarius sun.
Yes, of course she is. That's thrilling.
With a Libra moon.
Oh, the beauty.
Yeah.
How do you feel that translated with her?
I get that. I mean, she actually has this very like strong, even keeled emotional decorum, I find. You know, I think that Libra moon is probably what like keeps her kind of like in the background. She doesn't really engage in a lot of the arguments. I think the queens kind of read her quiet, you know, her silence as calculated, which I'm sure I mean, we already know it is to some degree. Libras are very mindful of the steps that they're taking in order to make everyone feel at ease. But I think at the same time, that is kind of what keeps her, you know, very sensitive to the room, while then allowing that like just wild Aquarian expression to shine forth. I live for her. She's definitely she's become my pick for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, she's a genius.
I like her backstory too, of the obstacles that she's gone through with her health too.
Oh my gosh, the resiliency.
I don't remember the condition right now, but there's something like even her hands hold a lot of pain, and so her fingers curl. And so I was kind of struck by when she was talking about when she does her makeup, she has to do things where she moves her elbow in a circle so that her hand can actually pay attention to the detail. She has Mars in Virgo, which I thought was interesting.
So she's a perfectionist in what she does.
Yeah.
Which pays off because it's all so well thought out. But that's interesting to know that she's air sun and air moon because, again, she's very, very bright. You can tell. Like, there's so much thought that goes into everything. And I think that Aquarius sun helps her to, like, be a little aloof, right? Like, she is on the outside looking in, commenting on what's happening as opposed to, like, being fully in the action.
Yeah, not getting too emotional about it.
Yeah. I mean, it's making me think of her opening look where she came in flip-flops and like blonde hair and the word angel.
Right.
It was supposed to be angel and she was kind of like the airhead or the dead.
Yeah, totally. And subversive, right? Like good Aquarius energy is subversive and it refuses to follow the rules.
Yeah. She's like, where am I?
Yeah.
Okay, so Lady Camden. 3 cheers for America's Little Spice Girl, born in the UK but now living in Sacramento. This professional ballet dancer turned drag queen is ready to take the world by storm, serving class and sass and living the pop princess fantasy she always dreamed of.
I love Lady Camden. She was a slow burn this season, but when she caught fire, she really got my attention.
Out of the final 5, which drag queen do you think Brandonna Summers would most likely hang out with?
Out of the final 5, who would she most likely hang out with? I mean, probably like Lady Camden and Angeria. She would like probably get in with those glamour pusses, you know, and just like hang out there.
I think there's a Brandonna Bosco moment. That's who came to mind for me.
That could be sexy. That could be very sexy.
Would be. I think they would definitely bring out like Scorpio qualities in each other. Those two.
Yeah. Well, they would get witchy.
Lady Camden and Angeria are both Leos.
Oh.
So Lady Camden's August 9th, 1990, Sun in Leo with Moon in either Pisces or Aries, depending. We don't know what time of day she was born. So we can say like a Pisces-Aries cusp moon here.
Yeah.
And then has Venus conjunct Jupiter and Chiron in Cancer.
Oh, wow. Well, also, I just want to say Brandonna Summer is a Leo, so it makes sense why she would want to hang out with the other 2 Leos.
Totally.
They would just be a pride, right? A pride of Leos parading through the workroom. Yeah, what do you think? Is Camden an Aries moon or a Pisces moon?
I feel the deep compassion of Pisces.
Yeah, I do too.
And if Aries moon, I feel that sort of sense of, you know, the creative genius and the new ideas. And there's sort of this youthful quality to Lady Camden too. And fierce as well. But I feel the Pisces moon with that one.
Yeah, she's very emotional, you can tell. Like she's kind of very vulnerable and available.
Yeah, there's a deep inner world.
Jupiter, Chiron, and Cancer, you know, all that Cancerian energy. And we saw that video with her mother, like came on the show, like had some sort of talk, and I think her brother passed away. there's just some emotional storylines with Lady Kim.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I love that, like, she's really learning how to step into her Leo and, like, claim her spotlight and fight for it because she deserves it. I think she's so ferociously talented.
That's something I think of with Angeria too as a Leo, and I think we see that a lot of times with Leos, is that there's almost like a vulnerability, and like we want to see them shine, and we see Leos step into the role of really being the sun that they are, beaming to us, but also I feel the healing that's taking place with both of them, allowing themselves to be seen.
Yeah. They also just really exude joy pretty effortlessly, the two of them.
Yes.
Of the five.
Their drag is so joyful.
Well, they might be in a relationship together.
Yeah.
Did you see that at the reunion show?
Yeah, I did.
I'm living for it.
A little kai-kai.
Yeah,
I'm here for it.
So Angeria is the Southern Belle from ATL, will light up any room with her charisma, uniqueness, nerve, and talent. An old-school pageant queen, Angie is here to serve fierce fashion and face with a country charm you can't help but fall in love with.
It's so true. You can't help but fall in love with her.
She could win, too. There's something about her that if she won, I would not be upset about it.
I would not be
Not at
upset
all.
so long as anybody but Diabetes doesn't win.
Okay.
We'll get to Diabetes in a moment, but Angeria is Leo's sun with a Libra moon.
Okay. All right.
She's the only one out of the final five who's right here at her Saturn return in Aquarius.
Oh, wow. What a hell of a Saturn return to be on RuPaul's Drag Race.
Right? Yeah. And then she's got Venus in Gemini and Mercury in Cancer. Yeah, so Angeria, Paris, Van Michaels, we love you.
Well, we understand the Libra moon there, right? Like, it's all that beauty. It's all, like, of all the queens, she is the one that is really crafting her outfits in a traditional drag expression.
Yeah.
It's, it feels very Libran, like it's so curated down to every earring and every nail, and it does more than just look good. It feels good, right? Like, it feels good to watch Angeria walk down the runway. There's a healing that happens.
It's also very poised and balanced, and
Yes.
she's got that Libran charisma and grace, and
Yeah, she's a charmer. She's a flirt.
yeah.
And I love it.
Okay, so last and maybe least,
Ouch.
I kind of love Diabetes, I will say, because she was the first person voted out. And then she has crawled her way, literally on the catwalk, crawled her way
Yes.
to the top. And she is born February 19th, 1996. What's interesting is, depending on what time of day on February, she could be an Aquarius sun. The sun moved into Pisces later that day. So I kind of want to say she's an Aquarius Pisces cusp. I'm just going to leave it at that because that feels right to me with Diabetes. So
Yeah.
hailing from the house of method, this edgy 6'4" goddess is serving 80s inspired rock star realness, crafting incredible looks out of any material she can get her hands on, and she'll do whatever it takes to claw her way to the top and claim that crown. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's that anything, it's that we'll do anything it takes quality that makes me dislike her, because she will step on anybody. And I don't think, this is why I feel like she's a 0-degree Pisces, is because she is a little baby in terms of emotions. Like, she's just lashing out. There's no real control around it. And I also don't feel like she, and we saw this on the reunion, like, is not really willing to take responsibility for her behavior. And I just don't think she's ready to be America's Next Drag Superstar. I don't think she's ready for the responsibility.
Yeah.
Right.
To be an ambassador for the drag community.
Well, get this. Her moon is Moon in Pisces conjunct Mars in Pisces.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So she's got a temper, which we see, she gets mad real easily.
Yeah. Will lash out in ways.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lashing out in ways she can't quite even understand.
Yeah.
Totally. Now, listen, she's not a bad drag queen, and I don't think that she's not worthy, because her looks are fierce and I like her aesthetic. I just personally, like, the heart connection is not there, because I think she's mean. I think she's mean because she has a lot of unhealed trauma.
Yeah.
And I want her to work on herself first.
When I think of Pisces, though, there's almost like she's picking up on the collective emotion of the group and has become the filter in which that is channeled through. It's like no one else is really saying anything, but there's all this tension. And so she's just like, blah.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Totally.
And then Venus conjunct Eris and Aries. So there's Aries.
There you have it.
Yeah. Yeah. She
Goddess
is the goddess of discord. She is, right? She is. She kind of thrives on it, right? Like she,
Yeah.
she's like what every housewife franchise has a pot stirrer who loves to just like throw a bomb and then walk away, and that feels very diabetic to some degree. Like she wants to just like throw some chaos into the room and then walk away. Unfortunately, she hasn't mastered the walking away.
No.
It's like she throws the bomb but she forgets that she's like still tethered to it.
She's like, and another thing, and another
oh
thing.
yeah, it's
like, go girl, just leave the room.
Girl, just leave. Yeah, just walk now.
It's Moon and Mars in Pisces, but she also has Saturn in Pisces too. So I feel being chained to it there.
Yeah. And that's her work. Her work is to take responsibility for her emotions. And that's where I think like there's a lot of projection going on, like the fact that she had such a bee in her bonnet around Jasmine. I was like, what is Jasmine triggering in you, boo, that you don't want to look at?
I think that there's a lot of sexual tension going on.
Oh.
Because Diabetti in like every confessional, she's like, wow, they're really hot. Oh, wow, they really turned me on. Like,
yeah. Maybe Diabetti was just horny and repressed the whole season. It was just lashing out in some unfortunate ways.
Yeah. So, that was an interesting choice for us to end on. I think to kind of wrap up Diabetti, her name comes from being diabetic. And I think that that's a really cool cause that she has. And so this is something that a lot of drag queens have, is that they have some sort of activist slant to their work. Inherently, it just is. It's not always. But this show, for me, RuPaul is a queen of Scorpio in many ways, because there's so much processing of trauma of being part of the LGBTQ community that is brought up into conversation and dialogue, and they transform all of that grief into beauty, into their art, into embodiment. So it's a really cool use of the Taurus embodiment and the Scorpio, processing of deeper emotions. So RuPaul, we love you. I feel like we could maybe even have our own podcast, us three, where we just look at the Queen's birth charts each week.
I mean, I would love that.
Yeah, just a pop-up. Let's do it.
I'm into it.
I'm always on my phone, like being like, oh, what's their sign? Oh, because it's so, I mean, as astrologers, it's so fascinating to watch it play out in real time, and it explains so much.
It's such a good learning tool too, to have, these figures that we can look at and see their story unfold, and it allows us to connect to astrology in a new way. So thanks for that little dose of reality.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. We, in that Taurian way, have lingered.
Yes.
We have gone over our...
Oh shit, it's 11:11. We have.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and close out our time together. And so maybe I'll just pull a tarot card to see what that brings up for us, and that will be a nice way to close out our time. So just tuning into all of you. I'm doing this because Brandon always does this on the show. So I think that if you haven't listened to Spiritual Gayz, go ahead and listen to it, because you're going to fall in love with Angel and Brandon. And usually there's a tarot card that's pulled to kind of, I don't know if it ends out the show, but you often bring the cards out. And so what do you usually say something really nice when you're shuffling the cards? Do you want to say that?
What do I say? Yeah. So we end every episode with a tarot card pull, and we invite the audience to like tune in to the cards by listening to the sound of them being shuffled, which Jeff is doing right now. And then we just ask for a card that kind of helps us work with the energies at present. And I kind of think of the card as like an oar to like help us row through whatever the cosmic waters are.
Yeah.
Oh, and trusting that the message will resonate no matter the future, place, or time to which you listen to this episode.
There it is.
That's what I say.
So while Brandon was saying all of that, I was tuning into the tarot deck, and let's see what our final message is here. Receive the Knight of Pentacles.
Manifestation in Taurus season.
Yeah, this is the one night that's not moving. It's fixed in place, so it's making me think of that fixed earth quality of Taurus.
Yeah, and I always love the way that knight looks at the pentacle, like is asking, how do you want to be planted? Like, let me not be so egoic here and like try to assert my will, but like listen in to how you want to grow, how you want to take root in this physical world.
Yes. So we're taking all of that in and wishing each of you tuning in a prosperous Taurus new moon and Taurus season. Thank you, Angel and Brandon, for being with us today.
Jeff, thank you for having us. We love you so much.
Yeah, so much fun. Thank you.
We'll have to do this again. Thank you as always for tuning in to Cosmic Cousins. If you enjoyed it and you'd like to support the show, you could pass this along to friends, loved ones, anyone you think who might benefit from this podcast. Could also leave reviews, comments, stars, or you could become a Patreon supporter of the show at patreon.com/Cosmic Cousins. And with that, I'll send you off into this Taurus season, and I'll see you next time. Take sweet care, cousins, and remember, deep breaths.